Welcome. Welcome to Bull and Bear. Today's episode is special. We are gonna talk about a specific mutual fund which is called thematic or sectoral mutual fund. But before we start, I would like to request you about happy investing. What I mean is all these tips which you get, and I am sure with these tips you will be able to multiply and grow your money. Remember to contribute, donate some part of it for anything good you truly believe in, through which you can make this world a better place for everyone to live. Today we are going to talk about infrastructure mutual fund. Yes, actually let's understand first of all what is infrastructure mutual fund. So we are going to talk about Quant Infrastructure Fund, and let's understand what is infrastructure fund. So actually infrastructure mutual fund is a fund in which the fund managers or that specific category of mutual fund invest your money into equity or stocks or companies which are related to infrastructure. So this is a very specific niche kind of a mutual fund where your money is invested in a specific sector or domain. So you have to be very careful. Do you really want to invest in a company or in a sector which are specifically working in one area? Sometimes it can be good because like say for example, currently India is growing, so there is a lot of focus on infrastructure. There is a lot of investment happening in infrastructure. Another one could be railways or transport sector. Sometimes it could be defense. So it is like a trend which comes, then it goes down. So I would recommend you not to put a lot of money or all of your investments into thematic or sectoral funds, but you can select one of the funds in any specific sector. It could be healthcare, it could be banking, it could be infrastructure where you invest your money. So Quant Infrastructure is a specific fund which invest all your money into infrastructure domain and companies and equity which are operating into infrastructure. So that is what infrastructure fund is, and Quant we are discussing because Quant is one of the best performing infrastructure fund as of today. There are some other infrastructure, there are some other thematic funds which we will see and do some comparison with Quant, but today we are talking about Quant Infrastructure Fund because it is one of the best performing infrastructure and thematic funds. So let's look at some of the returns this particular thematic infrastructure fund has given. If you would have invested 6 lakh of rupees, let's say 10,000 rupees every month, and if you would have done for 5 years in the past, it would have given you an amazing return with a profit of about 12.21 lakh. That is the profit, plus your initial amount would have been added to it, and it would have become total of 18 lakh and 21,000 rupees. That looks really good. Actually, let's see, is it true? And if you look at this particular picture, you will be able to see initially for first few years the growth was not like growing, it was not increasing, and this growth in infrastructure funds have started mainly in the last 1 year, maybe 2 years after COVID. And as I said, the simple answer to this is India, Bharat is a country which is at a stage where a lot of infrastructure projects are happening, where a lot of construction is happening, and that is why the companies related to this have started to perform. Another example could be defense. As I mentioned, there is a war happening and there is a lot of requirement for defense products. So in that particular time, the stock of defense companies will go, and if you have invested in defense mutual funds, they would have been skyrocketing. So as I said, these funds go up and then they become consistent. So that is why you have to be very careful, and this clearly shows an example. Let's look more in detail. I have done another comparison for last 3 years. So if you see 1, 2 and 3, this is what it is showing. Initially it was not growing, it was just like a flat line, little bit increase. In the point number 2, where the 2 is written, you can see it started to grow because the companies were starting to increase their business and projects started to build up, And three, that is the most important. If you see, that is where the growth has happened, and that is the recent times because of the success story, the growth, the happening in India. Now let's look at specifically for 1 year, and within this 1 year also, if you see last 6 months, that's where it is skyrocketing. And this particular mutual fund is giving amazing returns, and that is none other than Quant Infrastructure Fund. Now let's look at the holdings. As I said, what are these companies? Why suddenly these companies have started to grow? What kind of companies are these? So there are three main categories. I will come to that also in a bit, but let's look at the company. So number one, the biggest holding again is in Reliance, and as I mentioned, Quant truly believes in Reliance. The fund managers have invested a lot of money into Reliance products. Then IRB Infra, this is a company which has been building infrastructure definitely. LIC is also contributed into this, because it's not that they have to invest all the money in infrastructure, they can diversify a little bit in different sectors also. Geo Financial, Adani Power, Swan Energy, so these are all the companies which are related to infrastructure, and there is an amazing growth in these companies. Now let's look at the sector. So basically there are three sectors, and they're all classified into infrastructure, energy. So these companies like some of them Reliance, Adani, and they are all into power. Then the second is metals and mining, which is also contributing. There is a lot of demand for natural resources, minerals and ores. And the third is definitely construction. So these three constitute basically the infrastructure, and that is why these are growing, because a lot of money has been invested in this. Now let's look at mainly the top five companies where how much money is invested, and that is very big because these companies are performing well, and that is why the mutual fund is going higher. And these are mainly five companies where 36% of the money invested, and 84% of the money is invested into top 20. And that is very important, that these 20 stocks have to perform, these companies have to perform for this mutual fund to consistently grow. And I would say again, for next 2 to 5 years, I see this growth will continue, maybe little dips, ups and down, but overall it will grow. And in India, infrastructure is very important. Lots of projects are happening, and the government has a lot of focus. Now let's look at some of the rankings. So again, in these rankings, if you see, this infrastructure fund is performing the best. The return for 1 year actually is 73.9, which is really amazing. Actually, even sometimes you don't get these kind of returns into large cap or mid cap funds as well, but this particular fund is performing well because of the success story of India in terms of infrastructure. Again, if you see peer comparison here, I have shown some more thematic funds. Actually, in thematic funds, we have healthcare, we can have banking, we can have infrastructure and so on. But overall, Quant Infrastructure is among the top, because this is one of the best performing, and you can clearly see SBI is also very important because they are having this thematic fund into healthcare, which is also very important area and sector. Lots of companies are doing very well in that. And again, as I always say, it is important to understand who is managing your money. So fund managers are very important part of it, but these fund managers we have discussed before in my previous videos. Have a look at it, and these fund managers are performing well. So please also share your feedback by giving us comments. Tell us if you have invested in this, how was your experience. If you have invested in any other thematic funds, also share that so that our other viewers can also learn, they can look at it. And we would also like to share your feedback with our other viewers. Now finally, the last important thing, as I always say, is to understand expense ratio. So the expense ratio for this, if you compare with specific certain large cap funds, it's a little higher. It's 0.73, but it is not that high. As long as it is below 1, I think that is considerable, because that is an average what lot of companies are doing in terms of expense ratio. And finally, the exit load is 0.50 if you redeem within 3 months, but if you do after 3 months, there is no actually exit load. So I think that is what I wanted to tell you about the Quant Infrastructure Fund. So as I said, please remember, not invest all your money into thematic funds. Maybe you can just go for one of the thematic funds, and Quant Infrastructure would be that one, because it is in the top in the infrastructure or thematic funds. Again, thank you so much for watching this particular episode. My good wishes to you. Good luck. I hope you will able to grow and multiply your money, and remember about happy investing. Thank you. Looking forward for our next episode. Take care. Have a good day.